Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's Transfer Express webinar, Heat Transfer Placement and Position. My name is Andy Curtis. I am the Learning and Development Manager here at Transfer Express. I hope everybody finds their day as absolutely gorgeous as it is here in Ohio today, or at least up here on Lake Erie. I see a lot of names I recognize out there in the audience. So hello to you attendees who are here every month. I appreciate you showing up so regularly. A bunch of names I recognize, as a matter of fact. If you have never joined me before, then welcome. And here's how this is going to go. I am going to guide you through this webinar for the next 30 to 45-ish minutes. Kind of depends on how interactive you guys are and how interested you are in the topics. Well, hello, Natasha. Welcome. So I'm going to be guiding you through these topics for the next 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And if you have any questions, feel free to type into that chat box over there. Another first-timer. Hello, Nicole. And Carlos, too. If you have questions, type them into that chat box that you have all found off to the side there. And feel free to let me know if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions about what we're talking about as we go. If you ask a question and I am in the middle of a thought, it is very possible that I might not actually be able to answer it. If that is the case, don't worry. We will get back to you after the webinar. We do get a transcript of all this stuff. But I also have a helper behind the curtain who said, welcome, everyone, just a second ago. My helper behind the curtain there is going to listen out for questions as well. So if I don't answer your questions verbally, she will answer you from the chat box there. So watch for that Transfer Express from Mentor, Ohio chatter there. I help her behind the curtain. Anyway, I hope everybody gets something out of this. This is going to be all about where to put your transfers and how to correct problems and how to do some hip things. The whole idea is I hope to either give you some ideas for placement that you might not have tried before, or to give you ideas on how to avoid problems that we all know we have from time to time. I know, helper, right? Nobody usually notices. So, and gosh, there's a lot of first timers here too. I'm so surprised. Well, I'm glad everyone joined us, and it looks like we're going to have a fun group here for this webinar today. So, if you are interested in a copy of the slides, then please feel free to shoot us an email after the webinar. These are some good slides, actually, so I do not blame you if you want a copy of them. You're welcome to shoot us an email to info@transferexpress.com after the webinar is over, and we can shoot you a copy of the slides. We are also recording the webinar. You will find the recording at transferexpress.com under the Help and Education section. There are a whole litany of these webinars. I have been doing them for so many years at this point. They're all there somewhere. So anyway, there will be a recording of this webinar available as well that will go up on the website in the next day or so. So with all of that housekeeping out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get started here with heat transfer placement and position. So first off, we're going to talk about 4 correctable mishaps. Now, I don't care how long you've been doing this. I don't care how many transfer orders you have pressed in your time. We have probably all done these things before. The first one especially, I know that we've all done this one before. You see, I've got two identical shirts here. On the left, we've got somebody who definitely did not do their placement correct. And on the right, we have what it really should look like. This is one of those mishaps that we all do at least once or twice, 4 or 5 times over the course of our careers, right? Now, I will fully admit that I have gotten thrown off by this drunken placement. Not quite, Julie. I will admit that I have actually done this mishap myself, and I will actually blame not paying enough attention, because sometimes you get a design like this Hornets design where it's really rectangular. Like, it's kind of short, but it's really wide. And you don't really look at where it's at on the piece of transfer paper. You kind of just center the transfer paper so far as you can tell on the garment, and then press, and then discover, holy cow, not what I was thinking. So I've definitely done this before, more than I care to admit. And it always looks good on the platen. Anyway, so this is one of those correctable mishaps that there is an easy way to handle exactly how to do this. So I'm going to switch the slide now, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So here's how to get over this particular mishap. What you're going to want to do is one of two things. There's two strategies here. The first strategy actually is on the left-hand picture here. What I've shown you is we've taken the shirt, and I'm not sure my slides are showing up properly because I thought I had text on this slide, but on the left-hand side, I'm showing you how to use kind of a plus shape to center your transfers. So if you've never done this before, when you're printing on the front of a shirt, the tag of the shirt acts as your center point for a vertical plane, okay, going up and down. That tag is your center point. So you kind of draw an imaginary line from the tag all the way down the middle of the shirt. Then you draw another imaginary line from armpit to armpit, and you grab exactly right where the armpit actually is, right where those seams are for the armpit. From that armpit seam all the way horizontally across to the other armpit seam. That forms a plus, a big plus. All right, right where the middle, where those two imaginary lines intersect, that's where you're going to want to center your transfer. Okay, that's where you're going to want to center your transfer. Now, this is where you're going to have to pay attention to also where it's at on the paper. You're centering the transfer, not necessarily the paper. I mean, hopefully the transfer is actually on the paper properly, but you get the idea. The other thing that people do tend to do sometimes, this is just one way of doing it. The other thing that people do tend to do sometimes is instead of doing this whole imaginary lines and tag down and armpit to armpit and all that good stuff, some people go 3.5 inches down from the bottom of the collar, like you see on the right-hand side here. On the right-hand side, we started at the collar. We're going down 3.5 inches. Now, there's actually a trick to this. I'm not sure if any of you have heard of this before, but it's called the three-finger method. The three-finger method. It's the 3 to 3.5 inches is actually the 3 to 3.5 inches is actually the width of 3 fingers. So you kind of take your hand and you go 3 fingers down from the bottom of the collar, sort of like you're showing a number 3 with your hands. You go 3 fingers down from the bottom of the collar, and that's the placement of the transfer. So two ways to avoid that whole belly shirt thing. It just comes down to paying a little bit of attention and making sure that the transfer ends up where you want it. Now, one suggestion I have for this to help, you must have big fingers. Actually, I do, Eric. I do have big fingers. If you have dainty fingers or you're not a really big fingered gentleman like I am, if you have smaller fingers, then you can go 4 fingers down. But the whole point is you use your fingers as a reference because you don't want to have to whip out a ruler and actually measure exactly 3 inches down from the bottom of the collar. I've always gone 3 fingers down, to be totally honest with you. That tends to be how I work this out. That's just me personally. But when I'm teaching people how to press their shirts for the first time, I will actually show them the imaginary line thing that you see on the left-hand side of the screen, just because when people are pressing for the first time, they're always super duper nervous and they want, specifics and where exactly should I put it and where should this go? I need it to look exactly the way it should look and all that. And so when I'm teaching somebody, I will use the one on the left-hand side. But when I'm actually going and doing shirts for my own family reunion or for my own stuff, I've been doing this long enough that I'll use the 3 fingers down from the collar just for the first couple to get a visual for it. And here's the funny thing about this particular mishap is that after you make a mistake once and you start really paying attention, it becomes easier to eyeball these things, and you really don't need to get crazy and buy the rulers and T-squares and all that kind of stuff. It's not necessary to go quite that far. But disclaimer, you will mess up and you will press a belly shirt at some point in time or another. It happens to all of us. The best laid plans of mice and men and all that good stuff. All right, the next correctable mishap here, and you know what? The text is definitely not showing up on my slides. I'm not sure why. I am so sorry about that, everybody. So the next mishap here, if you'll notice on the left-hand side, we have a left chest transfer. It's supposed to be the left chest of zip up hoodie here, and you'll notice that we have definitely gone too far to the left. The strikers is kind of ending up under the armpit. This is another one that I'm sure all of us at some point or another have done. Um, oh, Natasha, you see the text? All right, so maybe it's is okay. Well, hopefully everybody sees the text. I'm not seeing it on my side. Okay, yeah, that's what I was afraid of. All right, it doesn't matter, guys. I'll guide you through it anyway. And we'll make sure that if you do want to see a PDF of the slides with the actual text without any font problems, then we'll make sure that we send those PDFs out to anybody who wants them. So please forgive me, guys. That being said, okay, the mishap that we're talking about here is definitely too far to the left. The strikers is ending up under an armpit. On the right-hand side, you see how it really should look a little bit further into the right so that it does show up in a more readable location. So this is one of those that I think everybody does the first time they do any kind of left chest. Now, the picture here just happens to be on a zip-up hoodie, but I have definitely done this more often than I care to admit on T-shirts. So definitely something that does tend to happen. So that being said, let's talk about how to avoid this particular problem. So again, I've got two different options for you. And this is all going to come down to precision and how you like to do things. So I'm just going to give you two possible techniques to avoid. On the left-hand side of the screen here, you see another one of my imaginary line scenarios, which I fully admit I am all for the imaginary lines on this one. I'm partial to that strategy here. So the way this works when you're trying to find the best place to put a left chest or a heart size, you have the garment sitting on the platen. You're going to look, as you're looking at the garment, you're going to look to the right-hand side. You're going to draw an imaginary line down from the far right-hand side of the collar. And you'll notice that's where the dotted line in my picture on the left-hand side starts there. The far right-hand side of the collar, just a straight line down. Then, again, with the armpit to armpit strategy, okay, you're going to draw another imaginary line down there, and where those two imaginary lines intersect is where we suggest putting the heart size. Now, I imagine there's a whole troop of people right now out there in listening land holding their arms up and holding their arms up and then drawing an imaginary line across the shirt they're wearing right now. You know who you are. I'm sure you're out there. I promise that this is actually a very good method. This actually does work. So you go armpit to armpit, and then again from that right-hand side as you're looking at it, another imaginary line down where they intersect. That's where you center your heart size. Now, if that's not for you, you don't like to do the imaginary heart thing like I do, I totally understand. The other strategy here is, as you can see on the far right, I have a picture of a polo shirt as well as a picture of a t-shirt. The other strategy here is you could measure either, and this is all preference, 7.5 to 9 inches from the shoulder. Okay, and then from the shoulder seam, from the shoulder seam, and then 4 to 6 inches from the center. Now, the center could be where the buttons are if we're talking about a polo, or the center can be, again, using the tag as a reference if we're talking about a t-shirt, but you're looking for the center of the collar there. Now, after you do it a couple times, this becomes much easier to spot, and you won't actually have to bust out a ruler and measure 7.5 to 9 inches from the shoulder seam or 6 inches in from the center, anything like that. But if you're the type that wants to be very precise, then I suggest going with the right-hand strategy here. I have been doing these for years. I have always used that left-hand version where you go armpit to armpit and then a dotted line down from the collar. It doesn't look like the line is at the armpit, Caroline says. You know what, Caroline? I totally understand. It is supposed to be at the armpit there. I promise, Caroline. It doesn't look like it because I'm using like a graphic of a t-shirt, but trust me when I say that that's actually the idea here. So where are the? So not where the. Seems to be on the side. There you go. Thank you. If he raised his arms, it would be. That's where we're going with that. Okay. So if this person had raised their arms up, it would be armpit to armpit, I promise. And that's the idea here. Just armpit to armpit, and then the right side of the collar on the way down. Yeah, Brian, we're not talking about the underarm seams necessarily. I would When we're talking about like going armpit to armpit, I tend to like to look for where all the different seams come together for the armpit. I guess it depends on what kind of shirt you wear or what kind of shirt we're talking about. I'm a bigger guy. I'm wearing a 3X t-shirt, so I wouldn't necessarily use the underarm seams per se. I would go up just a little bit more, but that's my personal preference for where I put my heart sizes. I feel like if I use the underarm, the seams themselves, Brian, that you're talking about, I feel like it would be a little too low. That's just my personal preference. Either way, the point is the armpit to armpit part, that's the easy dotted line to find. That's the easy plane to use. Where people will mess up, though, is that other line, that side of the collar, that right side of the collar going down. That's where people will screw up and they will go too far to one direction and either end up putting the transfer under the armpit or too close to the center. So to be totally honest with you, the armpit to armpit line here that we're talking about, that's easy to accomplish. The one that's important to focus on is that one at the collar going down, because that seems to be where most people screw up. And again, this is from my experience. I have to say that that's absolutely true, and you're welcome to disagree. If you have any hints and tips yourselves, you're welcome to throw them out there into the chat box, but that's personally how I like to handle that one. Good question, Lori. Is this strategy true for all sizes? You know what, Lori? I tend to think that they are, that it is a good strategy for all sizes. But what I will throw out to you, Lori, is if you are dealing with a really big shirt, a 4X or a 5X, it can be a little bit rough sometimes. Just like Brian is talking about using those underarm seams, it can be a little bit rough sometimes to figure out exactly where that armpit to armpit line starts. But what I would throw out to you again is that line isn't the one that's most dire, because hearts can go up and down a little bit. That's not really the biggest deal. The left to right, again, is where people tend to make the most mistakes. So again, that strategy is true for all sizes. I just feel like you have to pay a little bit closer attention when you're talking about the really big ones. Okay, so let's move on to the next correctable mishap here. Oh, the tucked in number. There's always that poor child on, there's always one in the league somewhere whose jersey or whose t-shirt ended up a little bit tucked into their pants. Luckily enough, I have not actually done this one before. I have not done this. Now I should probably knock on wood, because now that I've said it. But I tend to be so anal about my number placement that I don't tend to have this issue. So, but it's a funny problem. I guess the logic here is that if you did it on the front accidentally, if you accidentally put your fronts way too far down, then it's distinctly possible you could do the same thing to the numbers on the back. So these are Champ 8-inch numbers pictured here, and you can see that we definitely went way too far down on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, though, this is what it should look like. So let's talk about how to strategize. This is actually super easy, and it's okay that there's no text on this slide because, again, it's easier than you think it is. We're actually using the same strategy that we just used a second ago, where again, we're doing a line armpit to armpit and then a line from the center of the tag down. Now, of course, in this case, the tag is actually on the inside, and you don't see the tag necessarily when you have the shirt flipped over and you're pressing on the back. You don't see the tag, but it doesn't take too much for you to actually see where the tag is at. You just have to sort of grab the collar and look inside and make sure that your tag is lined up properly. But again, you're drawing a line from the tag down and then armpit to armpit. What if the tag is not? Oh, good question, Nadine. There's a couple brands of those shirts out there now where I think they put those tags off to the side or something. You know what, Nadine, if that's the case, if you really do have a shirt where the tag's not in the center, then unfortunately, it's one of those situations where you're just going to have to do your best to eyeball it. I don't think there's too many of those brands out there. I know what you're talking about, though. I've seen a couple shirts where the tags are the teeny tiny little bitty rectangular tags, and they're not really centered very well. The good news is if you spot it ahead of time, you at least know to watch for it. But it's actually not that hard to find the center. One actual good trick for you, Nadine. I don't know what kind of heat press you have, but if you do have one of those shirts where the tag's not in the center, or maybe the tag's been ripped out even, and you can't really find where it was, so you don't have that reference. I don't know what kind of heat press you have, but on the heat press in the picture here, we're using our Air Fusion that we have here in our facility and Transfer Express. And The post, Hotronix. Well, good. See, the post, the metal part that the upper platen rotates on. You can see it in the photograph actually, where that little airline is plugged into. That post is the center of the press, and I know that when I lay my shirt down on that platen and I grab the armpits of the shirt, I can feel how much fabric I have hanging over each side. I can feel if it's centered, and then I can see where my collar looks in reference to that post that's in the middle, and it's a way to visually line everything up. Okay, there's a bunch of different ways to do it, but that's how I would handle it, Nadine. Honestly, that's what I would end up doing, is making sure that visually my collar looks like it's centered on that post. Now, if you don't have an Air Fusion like this particular one, where there's no post like that, there's always something in the middle. If you have like an auto clam, for example, there's the black tube that connects the top platen to the motherboard that comes out there. You can use that as a center guide. There's always something there. There's always something there that you can use as a center guide. And the catch, though, is you can't go only by that, visually centering the collar like that. If you go by only visually centering the collar that way, Nadine, then you're actually still leaving yourself open for error. So then after visually centering the collar, you grab the armpits of the shirt gently as it's laying there on the platen, and you just kind of feel how much fabric is on the left side and feel how much fabric is on the right side. If it feels even, then you're good. You pretty much nailed it. But if it's too heavy on one side or the other, then you're actually off center. So and yes, Nicole, you can absolutely do that. It's the same process for the stretchy fitted shirts like Bella. Absolutely, it still works. Yes, the shirts are shaped a little bit differently if you get the baby doll stuff, but in the end, the shirt's a shirt. So that's just my personal thought behind it. I mean, yeah, like a baby doll shirt's going to be shaped a little bit differently, but in the end, you're going to find the center the same way. So either way, the big secret to these numbers, though, I don't know if anybody noticed here, this is actually a double-digit number, and the way we are actually having these two numbers lined up so properly is the fact that we actually just put the two numbers up against each other and form one big rectangle. You can't even tell in the picture that it's actually two separate numbers. When you just put the papers up against one another and butt the corners up together, then you treat it like one big rectangle and you center the whole thing. So that ends up how we took care of this one. All right. The next correctable mishap. Has anybody done this one before? Has anybody accidentally screwed up where to put the transfer on a pair of shorts? So crooked shorts prints. This is one of those things where if you're doing basketball, if you're doing certain sports that do the polyester shorts, it's really easy to get into that habit of you toss the shorts on the platen, you put the transfer on there and discover, oh my God, I put it on crooked. If you look at the two X'd out pictures here, you'll notice that the X'd out picture on the far left, the transfer is actually straight, but the pair of shorts itself is crooked. And then if you look at the second one, the one in the middle here that's X'd out, you'll notice that we've actually gone way too far to the side there. The transfer is kind of ending up a little bit in the crotch. Not where you want that transfer to end up. So on the far right, you see what the actual transfer should look like. So if you've done a lot of shorts before, you've probably done this. I'm sure some of you out there haven't actually pressed shorts before. So if you've never pressed shorts, then let this serve as your warning. Let's go ahead and talk about, I did not have an extra slide here. So let's talk about how to actually do this. What you're going to notice is on the far right-hand side, where I have the correct version of the picture, on the far right-hand side, what we've done is we're putting the transfer itself on the right leg of the pair of shorts. So what we've done is I've taken the right leg and I've made sure that the right leg itself is straight up and down on the platen. Now that's the top picture on the right-hand side here. The right leg, the one that I'm pressing on, is perfectly straight up and down. Okay, so I don't have the whole pair of shorts on the platen. That left leg is all crooked and hanging off somewhere else. It doesn't matter because I'm not pressing on the left leg of the shorts. I'm pressing on the right leg of the shorts. All right, so I have the right leg perfectly straight on the platen. I've taken the transfer and I have centered it in relation to the bottom part of the leg. Okay. I don't want to put it too far towards the crotch because we don't want the transfers, between somebody's legs. And you don't want to go too far to the other side because then you got the transfer on the thigh. So what I've done is I've tried to find the center point of that bottom part of the hem. All right. You'll notice that the bottom of my transfer page, the bottom of my transfer is right up against the seam, the hem of the shorts. That's totally fine. But then I have found the center point left to right, and that's where I've placed the transfer. All right, so this way it doesn't end up too far into the crotch, it doesn't end up on the hip, and everything is perfectly straight because the leg that I am pressing on is straight. Okay, so don't worry about trying to get the whole pair of shorts on the platen. Don't worry about making both legs look good. You're pressing on just one of the legs, so that other leg can hang off wherever it's going to hang. It doesn't matter. You're focusing on where the transfer itself is going. Okay, so if you've never done shorts before, let this one serve as your warning here. All right, so let's talk about some unique transfer placements. There's a couple different ideas here to talk about, and I want to point out some ideas. Now, some of these are not necessarily new. Some of these you've probably seen before. If you've joined me in the past, then that blue demon at the top left-hand page, that's actually a, I know there's a ton of names for these things, a pom-pom jersey, spirit jersey, a billboard print, is what we like to call them here at Transfer Express. That top left-hand picture, definitely super popular. I'm not sure if that popularity might be waning or not, if that's had its 15 minutes of fame. But it's definitely been super popular over the last couple months. And the whole idea there is you're actually using a transfer and pressing across the entire back of a long sleeve jersey. The entire back. You're actually, in some cases, some of these prints actually go down each sleeve a little bit. If you are interested in hearing more about that, I have a whole separate webinar on that topic that we did a couple months back. You can find that webinar on transferexpress.com. The one directly below that says Titans Baseball, that is a fun placement. Now, what this is it's kind of not as much of a placement, fun little transfer placement as it is a fun way to add some spunk and some pizzazz to a design. Otherwise, what we did was we took the script and tail with Titans and we actually used rhinestones and put the rhinestones around the word Titans. And you might not know this, but here at Transfer Express, we actually do custom rhinestones. So you can order that Titans baseball script and tail and order the rhinestones from us at the same time. And the kicker is we make it so that it's easy for you to do that placement. It's easy to, you press the transfer first, the screen print, peel it, and then you take the rhinestones, they come on the clear carrier, and you put that down exactly where it needs to be so that the rhinestones are outlining Titans. That's pretty cool. I like the picture in the top middle here, Nathan, that little kid shirt. That's cool because we have sort of blown away what is considered traditional, where everybody knows that you put the transfer on the front center of the shirt. Well, we didn't do that in this case. We took one of our express names, the name Nathan, and we did it vertical. But instead of putting it vertical down a leg like you would expect per the senior below it, we instead took the vertical name and we put it on the left chest. So very different, not where you'd expect it at all. And then we took the cute clip art of the little kids in preschool and we put that along the bottom of the shirt. So what you've got here is definitely a really unique looking shirt, not something you see every day. Very hip placement. And then on the far left-hand side, or far right-hand side, rather, you see we've done a couple fun things here. We have the green shirt she's wearing there. We've done another vertical shirt, vertical design down the left-hand side. It's kind of fun to take a vertical design and treat it a little bit like a left chest. So you do a vertical design that it would have looked perfect on a long sleeve or a leg, but instead you treat it like a left chest almost, and you put it down the left-hand side of the shirt. Definitely a unique look. Definitely a unique look. And here's more of these fashion-forward placements to continue that train of thought. And there's all sorts of different strategies to these. There's no rules necessarily. These are just meant to give you ideas. I will consider this webinar a raging success if somebody sees these ideas and goes, wait a minute, I have the coolest design where I could totally do that and blah, blah, blah. I'll consider it a success, you know. The whole idea is just to get you to think a little bit about where you can put transfers other than the front of the shirts. Think outside the box. Okay, so on the graphic, the infographic I have on the left-hand side here, you'll see that you've got your standard front size, but we've also got left shoulder. And that's actually what the tie-dye shirt in the picture is. It's a left shoulder design. So not so much that's important with the tie-dye necessarily. It's the placement of the heart and the flowers and all that. The bottom front, I just showed you that on the last slide with a little kid shirt, Nathan, with the little preschoolers there. The red shirt at the bottom left, that's actually super popular right now. I don't know if anybody out there has gotten a chance to do these. It's not a tag like you might think. It's actually the back of the shirt, and people are putting small pieces of clip art or small little bits of text centered directly under the back of the collar. I think it's one of those things that people take it, people leave it, but it is popular. We have had a lot of different people giving us feedback that they did do that. Eric Dukes, that's probably the best quote of the webinar so far, Eric. That's perfect. Eric says, so my placement mistake could be considered fashion forward. Just have to sell that to my customers. Amen, Eric. Amen. There you go. Honestly, it's kind of funny to think that way, but you're absolutely right. It can be considered fashion forward. I mean, look where some of these transfers end up. The wraparound is one of my favorites. Honestly, that's kind of a fun idea there too. Oh, and Steve, you did the back for the guys at the firehouse. Very cool. So the wraparound, though, that's a fun one too. The purple shirt here, and really, it's very easy. All you do is you open up the shirt, you thread it onto the platen, and you just have to thread it in such a fashion that you're kind of threading it on sideways. And honestly, it's that simple. I've seen people instead do the wraparound that way. I've seen people instead rotate it 90 degrees and take a vertical design and start it under the sleeve, actually. So you're pressing it on the side of the shirt, but you're pressing it under the sleeve. Now, I've been out of high school long enough personally that I see that and I think, well, that's kind of funny. I don't know that I like that personally, but it's what's in fashion right now because it's outside the norm. We know how kids today like to do the weird stuff. So, all right. So just some ideas for sweatpants. I just wanted to throw out a couple sweatpants ideas here to you guys. It is time to get away from just putting things vertically down a pair of sweatpants. We see it all day, every day. That's so boring. Butt prints are super popular right now. Have been super popular for a while now. So the swim pants that you see here, a good example of a good butt print, but we took it a step further and we put MHS Swim down at the bottom of the leg there, right above the seam, the hem of the sweatpants. So that's a really fun placement. That's not something you see all the time. Very, very out of the norm. And you see two different legs in the middle here. Actually, this is more of a size thing than a placement thing. The two pictures in the middle, the I Love Cheer in the middle left, that is our standard leg size, to where the Bulldogs on the middle right, that's more of our maximum leg size. So you see how placement there can be, when you're doing the standard leg, you could keep it on the thigh, you could keep it from the knee down. The maximum leg, we chose to start it a little bit further down the pair of pants. I think that looks pretty cool when you don't start it on the hip, but you instead start it down towards the ankle instead. So definitely fun placement. But more importantly, sideways text instead of the whole vertical thing. And then on the far right-hand side, you notice we took it to a whole different place. You put transfer on each thigh. Now, the thigh that's got the design on it, you actually tend to size them just like you would size a left chest, believe it or not. So I would do like a 4.5 inch wide left chest. So if I was going to do a transfer from my thigh of my pants, and I'm a big guy, but I would do about 4.5 inches wide. Very easy. So, just some ideas, just some different concepts. Again, I'm just trying to jog your guys' creativity centers here. The next slide is actually really cool. I like this because hoodies are crazy popular, and I am so bored with people just printing on the front of hoodies, just the front center like we're used to. I think it's so cool to take the hoodies that the kids like and put the transfer somewhere else, do something different. So I love that with our gang sheets, you can order a full size design and you can put things like that little paw on there. Um, the hoods don't look fun to press, Jamie says. Yeah, you know what, Jamie? I will give you that 100%. Jamie's right. The hoods are not necessarily fun to press, but here's what I'll tell you, Jamie. Once you do it a couple times, you discover, is it a little bit more difficult than the rest of the presses that you do? Yes, it is a little bit extra steps, and there's a couple extra things to do, but the result is so cool. That Eagles design for the hood, that is so neat. And again, the whole point of this is it makes you stand out from the rest of the crowd. When people see that hoodie that's in the middle here, the Madison Eagles, when people see that, that makes you stand out. And Steve's right, hoodies are big sellers anyway. Everybody needs hoodies, everybody likes them. It's not even just high school kids, it's everybody. I personally am not a pullover hoodie guy. I'd rather do a zip up hoodie. But the point is, everybody likes hoodies. So instead of pumping out the same things over and over again, get creative. The sheets that we print on here at Transfer Express are 11 and a quarter by 14. So you can actually fill that sheet up with all sorts of stuff. And that's how we've done all of these different hoodies is we've just filled up the gang sheets and put all sorts of other stuff on there, cut it all apart, and then put it in weird places on the hoodies. A giant hat press would work amazing. There you go. There's one idea. Um, and that's a good idea too, Nadine. I would place the Eagles print upside down so you can read it when the hoodie is down. There's a couple ways to go about doing it, Nadine. That's another way to look at it, though. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, see, Donna echoes that right after that. Um, so there's a bunch of different ways to do this. I personally, when I was doing the hoods on these things, I busted out one of our smaller platens. To be honest with you, you don't even need a hat platen. You just use the 11 by 5. Oh, well, see, my helper behind the scenes has pointed that out. You use the 11 by 15 platen and put that on the press instead, and you can easily get just the top of the hoodie on there. I mean, it's a little awkward to hang the hoodie, but it's really no big deal. The first time you do it's a little bit stressful, sure, because you're not sure how it's going to turn out. And yes, plan to mess one up because we always do. But it's actually not that bad at all. It's actually very simple to go about doing it that way. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and move on here to the next one because this is my favorite of the hoodies. I got to do a video on this. If for those of you folks who have heard of stallstv.com, we'll do a plug for Stalls TV here. Stalls TV is a really fun outlet for other educational videos. It is free to sign up to get access. You don't have to pay anything. You do have to sign up, but it's all totally free. Stallstv.com is really cool because I actually did a video on this exact hoodie. Where we've got the THS lions in the bottom corner of the pocket. You've got the lion head on the side of the hoodie, the hood rather, and then you've got the tiger, the lion claw, going sideways under the underarm. That is so cool because again, it doesn't look like you would expect a hoodie to look. Okay, see, see, there you go, Eloisa. I agree. Stalls TV, it's full of ideas, but so these are just another neat way to go about doing the same old hoodie that you're used to doing, but doing it differently for you to stand out. Now, keep in mind, guys, that you might not have a customer that walks into your shop wanting you to do all three of these things to the same hoodie, but it's great for you to have this kind of hoodie on display in your shop because this is the kind of stuff that gives people ideas. This is the kind of stuff that even if somebody walks in and doesn't want a lion really massively on the side of their hood, it puts the concept out there to them, and you don't know where it's going to take them from there. But the point is, they got the inspiration, you showed them it's possible, and now they can take it somewhere and go with it, and you can help them get there. So just something to think about. So let's keep going with the hoodies theme. So we jazzed this hoodie up. We did a whole bunch of stuff to this hoodie. This how many gang sheets do you need in order to make it feasible? I am so glad you asked that, Ryan, and you asked it at the perfect time because that's exactly what we've done with this gang sheet. If you look here in the bottom middle of this slide, that's the gang sheet. That is the one gang sheet we used to make this hoodie look like something from the NFL. I know, right, Steve? Isn't that cool? It took a little bit of pressing to do this, mind you. I mean, there was a lot of pressing involved and having to adjust and move and rotate and all that kind of stuff. But the point is, if you use that whole 11 and a quarter by 14 sheet of paper, you can do crazy things with it. So just to reiterate here, we've got transfers on the top of the hood. We've got tomahawks on the sides of the hood. We've got some numbers and some little circular logos. I forget what they are for the life of me. All along the back of the neck. We've got a name and a number. We've got the number on the back. We've got the number on the front. So it's so cool, and this was super cost effective because it was all one sheet. This is one gang sheet with all of those decorations on it. Is the gang sheet with all of those designs considered one sheet when paying? Yes, Stephen, it is. This is one sheet. Okay, that is one sheet of paper. So to answer Ryan's question way up there, you can do these kinds of things with one sheet. It comes down to being strategic. Don't get me wrong. You do have to spend some time playing with sizing and playing with clip arts. And this is where you use our Easy View Online Designer and you rotate some of the stuff around. I mean, you notice the tomahawks kind of fit on there in a really goofy way. We had to adjust and rotate and move, and some of those little polka dots we had to stick in some goofy places. But where there's a will, there's a way, folks. Where there's a will, there's a way. Okay. But you order the numbers. Yes, Nadine, you do order the numbers separately. So in this case, the 88, that's on the front and the back, and then the Anderson, those were separate. Yes, we ordered those separately. But the good news is our packs of numbers are super cost effective, very cheap. And then the names, the express name product is also very cost effective. I believe they're $1.75 per name, I believe. So very cost effective. So again, I hope if nothing else, we've inspired you a little bit with this one. Here's another one. Now, this is one where, again, we're sort of pushing it a little bit. We're going the Greek route and trying to find a different way to do these. And I think one of you guys even pointed this out about doing the names differently on the hood, doing the transfers differently on the hood depending on the goal. This is an example of pressing that the tau and the delta, I forget my Greek letters, forgive me, guys, pressing them in such a fashion that they're right side up when the hood is down. So again, you could go the other route where we could have pressed them in such a fashion that they were right side up when she has the hood up instead. But in this case, you'll notice we have the word little on the bottom of the muff pocket on the front of the hoodie. And then we've got the word sisters on the sleeve. And again, this is a really easy gang sheet to do because we were already doing the love Greek with the Greek letters. And both of those designs, while they look nice, they're not huge. So it was easy to put little sisters on the same gang sheet. And it doesn't cost any extra, super simple to accomplish. So again, just some ideas here to think outside the box. As I've been saying all along, hoodies, they're a great seller and all, but it's time to start doing something a little different. Challenge yourselves. I agree, Chandra. It is pretty cute, isn't it? I could easily see this selling in a Greek market without too much trouble. So, all right. So let's talk about hats for a second here because it is time to look differently at hats as well. I don't know if any of you have seen, but we are offering a new cap bill platen. If you look at the top left here, we've got our mannequin here wearing that senior hat with the, I think they're tiger stripes. Yeah, tiger stripes or zebra stripes or something like that, one of those animals. But it says senior and it's got the pink stripes there. We pressed the underside of that hat bill with the hat bill platen. The hat bill platen is kind of a plush-shaped looking platen that allows you to set a hat upside down on it to press on the underside of the bill. It's a beautiful thing, really. Not that you necessarily can't print on the other parts of the hat. So you see that wolf there. Somebody has gone so far as to really decorate the bill of that hat. That's a little bit more of a challenge because you do have to be holding the hat in such a fashion because you can't necessarily set it down. You end up having to kind of do a three-handed or really acrobatic press with that. But it is possible to do that. I actually like the one at the bottom middle here. This is one of those things that I don't think you really think about it. Decorating the back of hats, it is very easy to decorate the top middle above the hole in the back of the hat. I actually have a customer who I handled a couple days ago who had the type of hats where the sweatband, or not the sweatband, I'm sorry, the adjustable band on the back was actually fabric. It was a Velcro type style adjustable band on the back of the hat. And she actually printed the State Farm logo in that tiny little band on the back of the hat. That was really clever. It was kind of a pain in the butt to do. Again, you had to be very careful about making sure everything was centered the right way, but it was a really neat placement and it wasn't something you expected. So something that makes the sponsor happy because they get to be singled out in a fun place and still allowed her to do it on the front of the hat as well. So, hats are just one of those things where everyone's used to seeing the designs on the front and center. So the challenge for us is to figure out another place to put these designs, how to decorate it to make it look different, right? Great tip, right, Kim? I thought that was so neat. I'd never seen anybody press on those Velcro bands before. And I was like, oh gosh, well, when she showed us what she was doing, my first question was, oh Lord, that's going to be a little bit difficult, right? And she said, oh yeah, I know. And she ended up sending in a photograph of what they looked like afterwards. I apologize, I didn't include it in the webinar here, but she ended up sending a picture afterwards and they absolutely looked fantastic. Took a little bit time to do, but it was really neat. So, and again, my text disappeared from this slide, forgive me. Everybody who is attending, we are going to send you this infographic. So you will receive this infographic as long as we have your contact information, your email and such. This is an infographic that our wonderful marketing people make up, God bless them. Just ideas. These are just some suggestions, just some basics on where you can put these transfers and stuff. So I hope everybody gets something out of it. If nothing else, it's one of those things where you kind of file it away in your email from next time you got to do this sort of thing. We've actually, and I saw one of you guys asked about doing long sleeves, and we actually have the reference for long sleeves here on this particular infographic. Now, I would actually challenge you to, if this topic is something you find interesting, I would tell all of you guys, definitely check out Stalls TV. We Transfer Express, we do Stalls TV videos on a pretty consistent basis, and we have done a whole series of different transfer placements for different things. I did one video on long sleeves, and we did a video on sweatpants. I think we did the hoodies that all of you guys really enjoyed the pictures of. I'm pretty sure we actually did a video of all those hoodies, to be totally honest with you. So definitely check all that stuff out. All right, so with that being said, gosh, this was a long one today, guys. Thank you for sticking with me throughout the whole thing. I usually, we haven't been running more than 45 minutes here lately. So great participation from all of you. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions, if I didn't get to anything, please feel free to hit us up, info@transferexpress.com. Check our blog out. I really cannot push this enough. All of the information that we have here today, this is all based on our marketing department. They run our blog at transferexpress.com, and boy, howdy, they are on the ball with these ideas and stuff. If you ever are looking for some kind of inspiration, hit the Transfer Express blog. Trust me when I tell you there's all sorts of fun stuff on there. Check us out at trade shows and our Facebook page, Transfer Express. We have our own Facebook page. It's Stalls Transfer Express right there on Facebook. Our marketing team does a fantastic job of putting really fun pictures and polls. We actually ask a lot of all of you guys on social media. We love to get your opinions and to ask what you think about certain pictures and that kind of stuff. So check us out. If you have questions about anything you've seen today, please feel free to call us or email us. And last but certainly not least, I will be joining you on Thursday, April 14th at 2 p.m. for photography for your t-shirt business. So please feel free to come join me again. I appreciate all of you being here. You were fantastic. I love having such an interactive group of people. So thank you, everybody, so much for joining me today. I am glad all of you came. And if there's anything else we can do for you, please feel free to shoot us an email, give us a call. We look forward to talking to you. So everybody have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you next month. Thank you.